and today we are going to be making Scotch eggs, which are a really cool British picnic snack. We're going to give them a little twist and they're going to be perfect for all of your holiday parties. The best thing about these is they can be made ahead of time, so that makes it super easy for you to serve these. Let's get started. First things first, we are going to start with getting the meat. So I should explain to you, a Scotch egg is a fried egg, but it's like a fried, soft-boiled egg with like little meat jackets. So we're gonna start with this. I have like 3/4 a pound of ground pork and about a pound of hot Italian breakfast sausage. You can use mild, it's totally just a preference of taste thing. And we're gonna start by mixing these two together with your hands. So you gotta get a little dirty with some fresh dried herbs. So here I have, you can kind of mix this however you want. I used parsley, thyme, oregano, salt, and pepper. I used about a tablespoon of each herb and then about half a tablespoon of the salt and pepper. Just gonna add those right in. And I'm just gonna mix these together, just like this. And we just wanna get it really integrated all together. And then we're gonna roll these out and wrap them in our eggs. The other thing you wanna do is to make sure while you're prepping the eggs that you get your oil ready for frying. I use a candy thermometer just so I know exactly what the temperature is, because you don't wanna burn the crust and make the fry like burnt. So you wanna get it to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So I just stick this in there with about, whatever size pot you're using, probably you want about 3 inches of vegetable oil or other cooking oil. So I'm just gonna let that heat up while we finish this. So next, we are going to work on making the meat. So what you wanna do is portion this out for how many ever eggs you're doing. The recipe I am using is for 8 finished Scotch eggs. You will actually need 10 eggs for the whole thing, but we'll get to that later. So you want to portion this out into 8 pieces. And so what I'm doing here is getting this plastic wrap out. This is gonna help us roll it out really thin. You might wanna have a little bowl of water or like water from the tap and just sprinkle it on here. This keeps the meat from sticking too much. The fat in the meat won't stick to the water. So I'm gonna take about maybe a little bit less than a baseball size here. Put it in here, kind of flatten it. I'm gonna have my plastic wrap already ready to go since my hands are kind of dirty. And then this water to keep it from sticking. So, got this in here, and I have my rolling pin also ready to go. And what we're gonna do here is just roll this out so that it's big enough to wrap all the way around our egg. So we probably want this to be about a 1/4 inch thick or so. Just get in there and roll it out. Nice and evenly. Now we can just kind of like set this aside for a second. And we're gonna move on to the next step. So for this, we're gonna set up kind of like a dipping station for frying the eggs. So first things first, we are going to use some of these eggs. I love to use these eggs from Happy Eggs because they have such like a rich amber yolk color, and they come in blue and brown, which looks so beautiful. So for this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take about, do 1 egg in here, and I'm gonna add about a tablespoon of buttermilk. And then I'm just going to whisk it with a little fork, whisk it together for this mixture. There we go. Another thing I prepped already, and you can do this up to about 3 days ahead of time, is you can soft boil your eggs. I prefer soft boiled, some people prefer hard boiled. It's totally a preference thing. For the purposes of this, I did soft boiled. So over here, I have my eggs, which I already boiled and peeled, just to help speed things along. So here you can tell this egg is still a little bit soft, which is perfect. That means we're gonna have like a nice kind of like jammy center when we're done, because it'll cook a little bit more in the oil here in a second. So I have my flour that we're just gonna lightly dust the egg. And then I have my panko breadcrumbs. You can use regular breadcrumbs, but panko, in my opinion, just gives like a such like crispier crunch. Kind of that really like good fried egg that we are going for. So first things first, we've got our meat already rolled out. We've got our eggs already soft boiled. I did this brought the water to a boil, boiled it for 4 minutes exactly, and then pulled it out, put it immediately into an ice bath, and then I peeled it a few minutes later. So all of this is on the blog, so you don't have to take notes, but dust the egg in a little bit of flour. This is just gonna help our meat jacket. Okay, I'm gonna set this aside, and I've got my other dipping stations. Now, this is probably the hardest part of it all, and it's not very hard, so you can totally do it. Now, see how I use the water? So it just peels right off. That makes it super easy for you. Another thing you might wanna do at this step, so you can kind of set your egg in there. In your little water bowl, you might wanna get your hands wet again. This will just help the meat not stick to your hands and just make the whole process a little bit smoother. So, here we go. I'm just kind of gently wrapping the egg in the meat. And if you have a little extra, if it starts to overlap too much, no big deal, you can just throw that extra back in here and use it on another one. So just gently wrapping all the way around. And the other key part is you can see here how it's wrapped so beautifully on this side, and this side it's a little bit kind of lumpy. So just sort of, you know, massage that out. Try to make it as even as you can. Again, we're gonna fry these, so it doesn't need to be totally perfect, but if you're a perfectionist, this is a little tip to make them look extra. Here we have our egg and buttermilk mixture. Gently just roll the egg in the other egg, just like that, all around. You got it like that. And then you kind of want a deep bowl for this, if you can, and you just want to get the panko all around, as much as you can, just like that. We are going to get it all nice and rolled in there. You can double bread these if you want. I think it does make an extra crispy coat, but sometimes it can make it difficult for the meat to cook. So this is a preference thing. I am just gonna do one coat because I think the panko just does a great job of making it extra yummy. So now you're just gonna repeat this process for all the eggs, and then we'll move on to the frying part. We've got our Scotch eggs all ready to be fried. We've got our oil ready. So we're just gonna gently lower them in. And you may only wanna do 2 or 3 at a time depending on the size of your pot, because it will lower the temperature of the oil. And we want them to fry evenly. There you go. Here, we're just looking for them to be a golden brown color. And you might just want to turn them a little bit throughout the process to make sure that they fry evenly. You will want to fry these for about 6 minutes to make sure that the meat cooks all the way through. You want the temperature of the oil to be about 350 degrees. This will give them the perfect fry and crunchy, crispy outside. These have a nice crispy golden fry. There we go. And I'm just going to let them rest on a paper plate. Now we're gonna put the next batch in. Just gonna gently put them in the oil. While those are frying, I am going to make a little dipping sauce. I love to make a horseradish dipping sauce. I think it goes perfect with these. You can make it as spicy or not spicy as you want. It's a really simple sauce. So start off with about 3 tablespoons or so of a full fat Greek yogurt. And here I have fresh horseradish. So if you can't find fresh horseradish, you can use prepared horseradish. It's usually in the condiment aisle. And I picked this up just at my local grocery store. And I'm gonna grate about a teaspoon or so. Again, if you want it to be spicier, add as much as you want. This is totally, completely a preference thing. If you have a lot of different guests coming over, you might wanna make one that's more mild, just for the flavor, and one that's spicier for people who like that. But fresh horseradish is just like a super great way to spice it up. So I've got that in there. You can kind of see. You might want to add a pinch of salt, just for a little extra flavor. And then I just mix this right in. Give it a little taste. Perfect. I'm gonna set that aside, and it'll be ready for our plate later. I can tell that these are finishing up, so we're just gonna check on them. Okay, it's been about 6 or 7 minutes. These are ready to come out. So you wanna be really careful. They're pretty piping hot. So have your plate with paper towel ready to go. You can just set these right there to cool for a minute. Now I have let these cool for a few minutes, so I'm gonna place them on whatever serving dish you wanna serve them on. A big plate works perfectly. So here, I've got these ready to go. Just gonna set them down. Might be a little crumbly, but that's okay. Here I've got these super yummy ones. If you want, you can cut it directly on the plate, or you can cut it over here. It's totally up to you. These are best served halved or fourthed, so it's totally up to you how you want to serve them. I am just going to give these a little cut down the middle right here. You just want to do a gentle kind of seesaw motion at first, puncture it a little bit to get it going, so that you don't totally break the shell of your crust that you worked so hard on. I can see that this is going to be a beautiful runny center. There we go. So some of your guests might prefer a more hard-boiled egg. So I've included one of those as well. That's totally up to you. This just depends on how long you cook your eggs when you boil them. These might be easier to eat. There we go. Now we're going to just plate this with our dipping sauce. You can serve this with a little bit of, you can serve it with a fork and a knife and a small serving plate, however you want to do it. It's totally up to you. Another great touch is just a little sprinkle of kind of flaky salt over them. Goes really, really well. And there you go. These are your Scotch eggs. Don't cut them until you're ready to serve them right away, but you can make these probably about 2 days in advance. Store them in the fridge. You can serve them cold, room temperature, or warm. Totally up to you. You can wrap them and bread them up to 3 days ahead of time and then fry them and when you're ready to eat, or you can fry them and they'll last for about 2 days. So there you go. These are your holiday Scotch eggs with the gorgeous amber yolk center from Happy Eggs. And I hope you have a great holiday season.